because one of the biggest mistakes, I still hear it today from young people, oh, I don't have to worry because I'm still deaf to most people. Because eventually you get old and then you're not young again. So it's a way of saying, when I talk about assets and liabilities, one of the most important things you have in your life is time. It's one of your greatest assets, or it's your liability. And being, I just turned 70, and I have friends who have nothing. I mean, they have zero. Now they've made a lot of money, but they have nothing here. They have nice houses, nice cars, 16 wives, 19 kids, I don't know what they have, but you know what I mean? And being young is great, except it can be a liability to you. Because when you're young, you're just having a lot of fun and life's exciting, it's new. So, at the time, but the thing is, this is the lesson today, is so many people spend their time focusing here. They want to make a lot of money. And I can hear it in their words. They say, oh, I want a career. This is career. Okay, or I'm going to start my own business. And this is the chart here, which we've seen. This is the cash flow quadrant, book number 2. E is employee. S is small business, self-employed, or a specialist like a doctor, lawyer, web designer. B is big business, 500 employees or more, and I is professional investor. So when I was your age, I knew I wanted to get here. This takes time. This is the hardest, This is where the big mega bucks are. And Kim and I are here. And the money is massive, but it takes time to get there. The big mistake I see young people make is they focus here. And the words are, I want to do what I love. That's the trick. You see, in real life, sometimes you have to do what you hate. Like people think I like to write books. I hate writing books. But it fills my purpose in life. It's not my passion, my purpose in life. Because my purpose was to get here. A lot of these guys get trapped here doing what they love. And as we've talked about on earlier episodes of this thing, these guys pay the highest taxes, 40% here, 60% in taxes here, 20% here, and then 0% here. So when I was before my 20s, I knew I wanted to go there, and it wasn't doing what I loved. I had to learn what I didn't want to learn. I had sometimes to do what I hated. I had to learn about taxes. I had to learn about debt. I had to take classes. I had to learn about insurance. So I was doing a lot of things I hated doing so I could come over here. These guys never do this because they live their passion. I want my passion. The difference in passion is greedy, purpose is for other people. So my purpose was to come over here so I could serve more people. Okay. Being poor and struggling did not look good on my face. I did not like it. But I grew up in a family that if you were rich, the idea was that you were crooked, evil, not caring, inhuman, not generous, and all that stuff. So if I said I want to be rich, then I went against my family's values. It was tough having that. Now, the other thing I saw was that by my rich dad managing his money well and becoming a business owner and an investor, that he got richer and richer and richer. Then he had a different kind of problem. His problem was too much money. And my rich dad said to me when I was about 18 or 19 years old, he said, son, there's two kinds of problems. Not enough or too much. Which one do you want? And at that point, and so I made an obvious choice. I said, I like the one with too much. I want to have that problem. And it's a very big problem. So knowing these three different things, I could make different distinctions and different choices in my life. The big point I want to make today is that money comes down to fundamentally a choice. That's all it is. And so as a young boy having two dads starting at age 9, I had to make a choice of which dad I was going to listen to. And it was a tough decision. Really, really, really hard because I loved both men. Both men were big men. You know, if there was a role model that they filled, they were tall and they acted like John Wayne or Robert Mitchum, you know, not Pee Wee Herman. They were big, strong, powerful, good, honest, hardworking men. I love them both. But their ideas were almost polarized, completely opposite. And that's why in Rich Dad, Poor Dad, in the book, I write that Robert Frost's poem, I think The Road Less Taken or The Road Less Traveled, I had to make a choice of which one I was going to listen to, which one was I going to follow down the path. And I made that choice. And it was a hard decision because I had to go against my whole family's culture, beliefs, and they're all school teachers. You know, when I came back from Vietnam, they said, you know, 'cause I got my bachelor's degree. I got that Bachelor of Science. They said, now, son, you are going for your master's, aren't you? I said, I kind of doubt it. He said, but you won't get a good job. You know, you get a better pay raise if you have a higher degree. I said, I'm not going to get a job. And it's hard. You sit at the dinner table, there's no conversation, you know. Well, you gonna get your doctorates? I said, well, if I'm not gonna get my master's, I don't think I'm gonna get my doctorates, you know. Yeah, but you get a better pay raise. You know, they came from the government model that it was not what you did, it was how high, what your degree was that you got paid by. And that's their reality, it's not my reality. So I had to make a choice. And the thing I say to people is that in many ways, I'm more like my poor dad. And when I retired in 1994, sold my company and all this, I was set for life. You know, I realized that I'd been too much like my rich dad, and that I wanted to run the second half of my life more like my poor dad, but I was going to teach people what my rich dad taught me. And that was a decision I made. But the thing is, it's a choice. And my propensity, my natural inclination, my genetic makeup, my mental makeup is more to be poor. I have to fight my natural inclination to go for job security, to play it safe, save money, invest for the long term, all that other rot my father believed in. The point I'm making here is this: every morning I get up, I still make the same choice. Every morning I get up, I make the choice. Do I make the choice to be poor, middle class, or rich? And we all have that choice. You know, we have to, as individuals, make that choice. By the end of my talk today, you'll find out how easy it is to become exceedingly wealthy. But it's just a choice. In my world, like I said, I see people, they chase shiny objects. And what a shiny object means is, you know, when you're fishing, you throw a lure out, and this little shiny object goes, and the fish comes and they jump in. That's what most people do. Bitcoin today is a shiny object. I'm not saying you can't make a lot of money in it, but most people are chasing shiny objects. They want to make money. They're not building an asset here. The reason they don't do it here, this is the highest risk. Now, this is what I know. The higher the risk, the more education it takes. For example, if I wanted to learn, and I flew, and if I wanted to just fly my little Cessna 172 around the place, not much risk in that. But when I had to go to Vietnam to fly, the risk went up. I had to study harder, become better, work harder at it. The reason most people stay in paper, 401ks, IRAs, and chasing shiny objects like Bitcoin is because they don't want to take the risk here, and they're huge. You've got to study. That's why we have Rich Dad's Education, Rich Dad's Coaching. All of you guys are allowed to take courses and all this. If you come here, it takes no intelligence to be here. It takes no intelligence to buy Bitcoin. I mean, I have 5 Bitcoin. It didn't take, you know, I don't have to do anything. Over here, I have to know a lot. Over here, I have to know a lot. I have to study. So if you want to chase shiny objects like the stock market and all that, you can get rich there. It's really easy to get in here. It's really hard here. You've got to be so much smarter. And most people, they have it. They have that ability to be that smart, but they rather do what they love rather than invest in what they love.